Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a good evening. Just wanted to let you know that there's going to be a bit of gore in this. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of sweat and blood, so if you don't like that then please click off. Also, if you hear any noise in the background, that is just my family, so please try to ignore it and I will try not to get distracted, and I hope you enjoy the video. So, as many of you may know, I used to do mixed martial arts. I did it for about 3 years, and when you're doing a type of sport like I was doing, you see people getting injured all the time, and you never think that's going to happen to you. It just doesn't enter your head because you're always moving, you're always doing something. But when you see other people get injured, it's almost like a shock. So when it happens to you, it's just a big surprise. You don't think it's going to happen. So while I was running around trying to clean everything up after mixed martial arts, we had just finished fighting. I was running around trying to pick up the boxing gloves and I didn't see a pile of sweat that was left across the floor. So I went to pick it up and I slipped backwards, which meant that my toe bent all the way backwards and touched the top of my foot, and my head touched the floor because I flew backwards as I slipped. So I had to carry myself up off the mat, where I had to sit on a chair, and my toe started heavily bleeding because my nail had nearly ripped off fully. It was only attached by 2 bits of skin. So I was sitting there trying to hold it, as you normally do when you hurt yourself. I was trying to hold it so the blood would stop, and my older brother came over and started holding it, and the blood kept coming out. So he had blood on his arms and hands, and I had it on my foot and on my hands. No one called a paramedic. I was just left, and people were saying that I sounded like I was giving birth and laughing, when all they did was wrap a thick bandage around my foot to try and keep all the blood in, whereas that just didn't work. Blood just went through it. Also, no one helped us get home. My brother had to carry me home, and we had to go in and explain to my parents what had happened. So my mum got me in, she elevated my foot up to try and stop the blood getting out of my toe, and I got made a cup of tea to try and calm myself down because I was breathing so heavily and I was so scared that I was nearly hyperventilating, so I had to calm myself down. After I had calmed down and stopped crying, I had to run a bath, I had to clean up all the blood off me, but I had to keep my foot in a plastic bag because I didn't want to get the bandage wet because it was too sore to take off. So after a while I got taken to A&E because the bleeding hadn't stopped, and I wasn't crying at this point. I was fine, the pain had ceased down. So I hopped in to the A&E. I had x-rays, I had to cut the bandage off, and I had x-rays, and they couldn't find anything because my foot had swollen up. So they didn't detect the 2 fractures that had happened on the 2 inside toes next to my 1 big toe. The only one they noticed was the Pac-Man break, I think it's called, across my big toe, and that had caused that as a fracture across my growth plate, which then has caused my foot not to grow again, because your growth plate helps your foot grow, pushes it forward, which means that mine's broken and my foot has not grown for 3 years. So it's very tiny compared to my other one. After A&E I had a few incidents. I stubbed my foot a lot because I'm so clumsy. I also fell up the stairs and my toe bent all the way back. Now at this point I went back to A&E. I was screaming and crying every single night, barely getting any sleep. So we went to A&E, and this was in the summer holidays. I went to A&E and they could do nothing. I was crying, but they couldn't physically help me. They had nothing. I had paracetamol and ibuprofen, and they did nothing. So they gave me the highest dose of medication, painkillers I can have, which is codeine phosphate. I was on 15 millilitres and that didn't ml, and that didn't affect the pain at all. It just made me sick. So I was in a lot of pain and feeling sick, and that did nothing for me. They took me, after a little while, after the nail had started cleaning up, they took me to hydrotherapy, where you get in water and you do exercises, and the water tries to make your foot non-tactile, because I was tactile defensive, which means I was very protective over my foot. I wouldn't let anyone near it or touch it, which then spread up to the top of my hip, where I can have still no one touch my leg. And even when I touch it, it feels like bruising. It's not that great, but so I can't have anyone touch my leg. After 3 appointments of doing hydrotherapy, I had to stop doing it because it caused me so much pain. It wasn't helping me at all. I was just screaming afterwards in the car on the way home, so we had to stop it. After that, I couldn't wear a sock, I couldn't wear a shoe, I had to wear a special slipper to help me and support my foot so I could actually go out. I had to wear slippers to school. On my crutches, I got given crutches, I had to wear it on school because I could not put a sock and a slipper on because of how bad the pain had got and how protective I was and how bad the pain was. My mum and I fought for a little while and finally I can wear a sock and a shoe properly on my foot. So that has been a great help, but throughout this time I've got really weary and tired. I continued the physio at the hospital. I really tried to push myself, but nothing was happening. The pain's just getting worse because CRPS, the condition, it gets worse every single day. You're coping with a new amount of pain. In my situation, if you know about CRPS, it's all categorized in the same condition, but everyone copes with a different amount of pain, whereas my one gets worse every single day. And every single year I look back and think, oh, how could you be moaning in that amount of pain compared to the amount of pain you're coping with now? So it's a very clear amount of pain that you're in. So I carried on with the physiotherapy at the hospital I was at, but nothing happened, and then I got put in this boot and people just decided to chuck balls at it, and it wasn't really helping me. It just made me more defensive of my foot and it became more sensitive. I couldn't cut my toenail, it looked absolutely gross. I couldn't cut it because of how bad the sensitivity had got. So I got sent to Great Ormond Street, where I met a consultant, a physiotherapist, a nurse. I met a psychologist, and a few other people kept coming in and out of the room. I think there were 2 other physiotherapists. And I explained what had happened since the start and explained what different hospitals had done. I got image of the nervous system, and I explained to them how they had shown me that there was no way my pain could travel from my leg all the way up into my head because my nervous system is cut and there's no way the pain signals can travel that way. So for the physiotherapist I had to take my sock and shoe off so they could look at my foot to see if there's anything wrong with it. And as soon as I took my sock and shoe off, I got diagnosed with CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome, or RSD. I was shocked. I did not know what that was. I had to do much research to find out what it was. So after the meeting, I got given loads of booklets about sleep deprivation because I hadn't been sleeping. I'd been waking up from a deep sleep screaming. I wouldn't sometimes not sleep. I once went 4 weeks with 7 hours sleep. I was not sleeping, and I still am not, but I'm trying to work on that. So after the meeting I got given loads of booklets about CRPS so I could learn about it because I had no clue. I went home and I went back to school and I had a meeting with every single one of my teachers to explain what CRPS was after I'd done my research, and Great Ormond Street had taught me about it because I had a huge meeting with them where I would sit in a room with other people that had CRPS. I think there was 3 or 4, and we talked about pain and how it's different from other people's and the difference between acute and chronic pain and all of that. So I learnt about all of that at the early stages of CRPS that I'd been diagnosed. So after that I went to see a specialist. I went for a few physiotherapy appointments, so then I went to see a specialist of CRPS, and I walked in and I told her what had happened, and she was lovely. She just sat and listened, which is why I love Great Ormond Street. They sit and listen and take notes on what they think is most important. They then ask you questions afterwards if they need to know anything else, and they then give you advice. So after this lady, the specialist, had spoken to me, I then got up on the table as you normally do, and I got examined on my muscle strength, and she could see how much pain she was in when she was touching my leg and trying to move it, and she could see that it was very difficult for me. I couldn't move my toe. So after that, we all sat down. There was my dad and my older sister. We all sat down together. We had gone to London, and she said that the only way we were going to get rid of this was to stay for 2 weeks at Great Ormond Street, to be referred there, so I could do intense physio, learning how to cope with the strategies that they had taught other people and worked with to try and learn how to cope with my pain because it had been left for so long. So after that meeting, after a few months, I went to stay. That was 3 weeks ago. I went to stay, and it was an experience. I actually met someone who has the same condition as me, but it's in a completely different place. And some of the well, I don't know what you call them, but some of the things that they have to cope with are completely different to mine. So I was actually quite shocked, and that's what I learned, that not everyone's CRPS is exactly the same. So after I met them, I was absolutely amazed. I've made great friends with them, and we stayed together. We made this connection. If you meet someone that has the same condition as you and you felt like there's no one else in the whole entire universe that understands what you're going through, or no one that can know how much pain you're coping with, and to meet someone that's nearly no age difference is absolutely incredible. So I met her on the first day. We had an assessment where we got our blood and our heartbeat checked, and we got our weight and our height measured. And then after that, you had lunch, and then I had my first ever physio. I think we had a meeting first, where it's all the children. Basically, it was this room, and all of the children sat on these beds, these hospital beds that you normally get checkups on. And we sat there and we learnt about biomechanics, which is body movement, talking about what happens if you don't move your body, or if you're hypermobile. And I'll get more into that in a different video, but if you're hypermobile, if you're too stiff, if your movements are too stiff, or if you're in the middle, or you're both. In my case, I am hypermobile and I am stiff. My joints are very weak and they don't move as well as they should do. So I sat and listened, and we learnt a lot in the meeting. And after that, as soon as we finished that, they got yoga mats out and we did our first ever exercises. Now, I thought they were quite normal and I didn't understand why we were getting given them. The normal ones like sit-ups and leg raises, I used to do them at home doing mixed martial arts. I used to love sit-ups, but they were completely different to the ones, and they had a completely different impact on different muscles that I hadn't used before. So after a few days, I then actually felt the impact of what they were doing, which is when I think I burst at Wednesday. At Wednesday, I just had a complete breakdown. I was crying and I was in agony. So I went for the first week and I was crying and I was in so much agony and I was just giving up. Like I said, I was weary. I was tired of fighting this. I felt like I was alone. So the second week, on the Tuesday, as I went back to Great Ormond Street, they said that I wasn't fighting as much as I could, and they didn't know what to do because I was the one that was in control of the pain. I was the one who could take control, and I hadn't been doing that. I thought when I got to Great Ormond Street that I would just relax and them take care of me. And by having that said to you by a specialist, you think, hold on, what am I doing wrong? So after that meeting, I had a physiotherapy session, and I fought as much as I could. I pushed myself to the limits that I never actually thought I could possibly push myself. I forced myself to do things that I couldn't do. I find it difficult to go on my tiptoes, and I've tried to force myself as much as possible. And they were so happy, and they were so shocked. But when it got to Thursday of the second week, I was really scared about going home. I didn't feel ready. I felt like I'd failed the first week. I felt like I hadn't accomplished what I wanted to. Also, I thought I was going to be healed, which was very difficult to cope with, hearing that I wasn't going to be and going home not healed. I wanted this pain gone, but finding that out was very difficult, and still is very difficult for me to cope with, because I've had it for so long and the pain's got so bad. I just wanted to get rid of it, but obviously that can't happen, so I have to still fight for myself. On that Thursday afternoon, after I'd finished both physiotherapy sessions, I went back into the rooms that are opposite Great Ormond Street, and I spoke to my mum, and I was crying. I was in fear that I was going back and I hadn't done what I was meant to. So she called up one of the people that work with my physiotherapists and the team, the pain management team, and I was absolutely nervous about going into physio the next day, but I found out that one of the specialists had got the email, or everyone got the email, but the specialist that brought me here came over to me the next day and said that they were so happy that I wanted to stay another week. They were so impressed that I was trying so hard, and so they wanted to give me another week. However, they needed to ask permission, and they booked me in to stay for a hotel, which was amazing, for a third week, which I wasn't meant to have. It was absolutely amazing of them. I was able to stay there, and I worked so hard, and I was able to build up a lot of muscle that I didn't think I could do in 3 weeks. Basically 2. So I was very, very happy with it. And then after that, I've come home on Friday, and I'm still working as hard as I possibly can, doing my exercises. Now, if you have the same story as mine with not being believed by doctors, if you're not being trusted, if they're showing you pictures of the nervous system, excuse me, if they're showing you pictures of the nervous system and they're trying to prove you wrong, if I look back on it, I actually think that I've proven them wrong. You just need to keep fighting and believing that you know your body. If your body's saying that you're in pain, then you must be. Normally, pain is sent to your body by your brain signals and your nervous system. Sorry. To try and tell you that something's wrong. If you put your hand on an iron, your brain signals will send messages through your nervous system to tell you to remove your hand because that hurts. If you're getting pain sent around your body, that means something is not right. With CRPS, you are trying to retrain your brain signals to thinking that normal activities are not painful. Like if someone touches my leg, it hurts. I have to sleep with my leg raised because if the quilt touches my leg, I can't have it. It actually has to go across my whole body because my pain I can't cope with my foot being under a quilt, and it's been like that for 2 years. I can't join in with any family activities, which I'm trying to change. I want to join in, I want to be able to do that normal stuff, but I have to still fight, and I am still fighting every single day. I went into school for the first time on Monday after 3 weeks of doing intense physio. I was nervous, I didn't know what my teacher's reaction were going to be, and they were very supportive, they were very helpful. I walked in and my friends were so happy to see me. It was quite disappointing because they thought that I was going to be healed and I would be able to join in normal activities. However, the Great Ormond Street have said that I do have a pain condition. It's been noted down in my discharge form that is going to be sent to the school. I am going to be controlling what I do in PE because I haven't been able to do it for 3 years. I will try and do as much as possible, and if I'm not able to cope, I can pull myself away and do my physio. And I'm able to control. I have insoles in my shoes. I went to a podiatrist during Great Ormond Street, where they helped me. They helped me to get an insole, which is forcing my foot flat, trying to train it to walk normally, trying to make me walk normally. So this is what has happened to me. This is my experience throughout my trying to get diagnosed, and I've had my diagnosis changed so many times. I can't actually remember how many times I've been diagnosed with so many different things. So I hope this has been helpful and supportive for some of you. If you are going through a situation like mine when you are not believed, I completely understand. You just need to keep fighting. Have your family and your friends support you throughout. Your teachers, anyone that you trust, tell them what you're going through and help them support you, because I think that's one of the most important things. I hope you have all learnt some support from this by my fighting and still fighting throughout, trying to figure out how I can control my pain in the best way possible. So if you are going through any difficult times, I completely understand, and I hope that it can all be sorted out. I hope this video has helped you in some way, and that it can help you gain some fight in you to try and start again, to try and push yourself, and try new things. I tried hydrotherapy physio. I'm now doing intense physio and different exercises that I thought I'd never tried before. So try different things, and when you start seeing something's working, push yourself towards that. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope it has helped someone out there. Okay, thank you. Bye.